Hey everyone, welcome back aboard the Earthmote. I'm Randall, and today we have a very special video. The Earthmote has actually been adrift for one whole year now. It's crazy to think that it's already our 1 year anniversary here at the end of November. I've just been so amazed at how the channel has done over the past year. It's been really awesome seeing all of the views and the support from everyone and all the comments on the videos, or people like things, or even if you're criticizing things, that's great too. It really helps me kind of self-reflect on some of the ideas that I put out there. So I'm just really happy with how that's all gone, and hopefully you as the viewer have really found some value in the channel. The reason I started it was I really wanted to share my love of RPGs with the community and share different ideas I'd been thinking about, and maybe they help some people out on their own game mastering journey. And maybe some of it's just me kind of sharing things I'm experimenting with and sort of trial and error and learning from that. So hopefully it's been interesting and fun. I look forward to putting more videos out in the future. So I really can't thank you enough for all the support. It does mean a lot to me. But I put out the call for questions that you all might have to me. So today we're going to take a look at some of those and answer them. So you got questions, I've got answers. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the first question comes to us from the first person to answer the call for the Q&A, and this is Eric the Red 2023. His question is, how do you deal with players with very different goals and interests in the game? If Alice wants to hear the life story of every NPC and Bob wants to kill, etc. Good question. I think the first step here is to try to get a sense of what they are interested in from the game. So this is probably going to happen in session 0, or maybe just individual discussions with each of your players before you're starting the game, if you can. I will caution here that sometimes people say, oh yeah, I'm really interested in X, and then in the game they actually do something totally different. So it's good to have that kind of initial impression on what they'd like to do, but also pay attention to what they're actually doing in the game. In terms of figuring out how to handle those different goals or interests, I think it really comes down to balancing your adventure design as best you can. So say you have someone who really loves exploring dungeons, and then you have someone who really loves more the role-playing or the social aspect of the game. What I would try to do is make sure when I'm designing my dungeons is to include different creatures or NPCs that are there that are willing to interact and talk to the party. I mean, that could be prisoners, it could be different adventuring parties in the dungeon, it could be a mad mage doing some experiments down there, or it could be a monster. I mean, there's lots of different ways to kind of incorporate that in, but then also have, more of those kind of hostile elements in the dungeon, whether it's traps or monsters that are going to defend their territory. So you can kind of balance it that way. What I would look to do is probably have like some sort of checklist or reference document. So like write down what your players are interested in. So if there's like social elements, or they like, solving puzzles, when I'm designing my adventure locations, I can pull that up and look, okay, do I have this in there? Do I have that in there? And then just sort of cross-reference that. Now, sometimes you have sessions that are very lopsided. Like if the party is in town and they're talking to NPCs, that's going to be very role play or social heavy session, as opposed to being in a dungeon in a hours long fight. That's going to be very combat heavy focused. So I think balancing across sessions is important too. Just keep in mind, we are very social heavy in this one. If you can try to encourage them to get to the action, that can kind of help balance that out a bit. Obviously, you're never going to be perfect, but just do what you can. And then lastly, I just solicit feedback from them and just ask how the games are going. Be like, hey, I know you really enjoy exploration. Have you felt like we've gotten enough of that in the last month, or however often you play? And then they can provide you with that feedback. And I think it's totally fine as a game master to kind of peel back the curtain on your adventure design or your intentions of your adventure design, so you can make sure that everyone's having fun at the table. Because at the end of the day, that's what you really want. You want your group to have fun. You want to have fun. So yeah, that's the best way I would think to balance it. Our next questions come to us from Franiac32, and they have 3 questions. What is your current favorite TTRPG, and what games are you currently running or playing in? What was your introduction to TTRPGs, and what does the hobby mean to you as a whole? The current favorite TTRPG is probably Old School Essentials, which is just the basic expert retro clone. I'm really having a lot of fun with that in the OSR style of play. What I really like about the basic expert version of the game is it's very simple, but you can also add a lot onto it because it's simple. So you can add your own house rules, your own complexity to it if you'd like. And even though it is simple, that doesn't mean it's boring. There's still a lot of fun and interactivity then there. And I find that having kind of that cleaner rule set really allows for you to get to play and kind of focus on the creative side of the game, which is thinking up interesting worlds, interesting locations, interesting factions, things like that, as opposed to trying to balance rules and spells and all that stuff. So that's why I'm having a lot of fun with BX right now. I'm currently running an Old School Essentials game, and I'm also gearing up to run a Dolmenwood campaign, which is similar to Basic Expert, but it has been tweaked a little bit. There's some quality of life changes on it, and I'll probably run that system as is, at least to start. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. That is a Kickstarter product that is coming to print and should be in the hands of the backers in early Q1 2025, and probably the rest of the world in Q2. So shameless plug there. I'm not being paid or anything to say that, but I'm just excited to play that one. What was your introduction to TTRPGs? I got started in must have been late 90s, early 2000s with 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure we played it totally wrong. It was just me and my friends, and we would take turns DMing and making overpowered characters and going and fighting monsters and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we probably didn't take it very seriously at the time. And then I took a long break after that, played a little bit in college, and then took another long break until kind of getting back into it in 2017, I think. So I've been playing since then. What does the hobby mean to you as a whole? So for me, I think it really just is a great way to stay connected with my friends and family. A lot of my friends and family are scattered across the US, and it's a great way to still get to talk to them, see them, spend time with them. So that's probably my favorite thing about it, is getting to spend time with my friends. All right, the next set of questions come to us from Link090909. They ask, what non-D20 TTRPG have you enjoyed recently? What's the last game mechanic that really impressed you? And what prompted you to start this channel? What non-D20 TTRPGs have you enjoyed recently? Mothership, been playing that in duo style with my brother. That has been a lot of fun. I've also been impressed with Free League's games. I haven't gotten to play any of those ones yet, but they look really cool, and I've heard really good things about them. I'd love to try the One Ring at some point. What's the last game mechanic that really impressed you? The last game mechanic that probably impressed me, I really focus a lot on the classics, so there's not a lot of new stuff, but I would say just in general, I watched some videos on Dragonbane. I think me, myself, and Di was playing solo Dragonbane, and that looked really cool. I was really impressed with how they implemented the solo rules in that game. So you have like multiple actions in kind of the round and stuff like that. That one looks really fun. What prompted you to start this channel? So I think I alluded to it in the intro a bit, but just my love of TTRPGs. I was hoping to kind of share some of the experiences I've had as a game master. I really like the Sandbox style of play. I started out more on kind of the story arc or the narrative arc style of play. And as I learned more about the Sandbox way of play, it really just kind of enraptured me, and I've really enjoyed playing it. And I just kind of wanted to share that style with the wider audience. Maybe some people have never played it before or really heard about it, and it might just get some of them to try it out. So that's kind of mainly it. And just enjoying RPGs and enjoying the great community. As I said, lots of great comments and support. It's been totally awesome so far. James George 3082 writes, "Hey Randall, first off, I really enjoyed your videos this past year. They've been a great help with running my first home game. I would love to hear your best, worst experience playing at the table. If there's anyone's work in the current TT space you admire. Excited for the Q&A. Take care, James." Thanks, James. That's very kind words. To get to your question, so kind of generalizing best and worst experiences, I think the best experiences for me are when the players come up with some sort of crazy or harebrained scheme or plan and they pull it off. Often it involves some sort of low probability of actually happening, but they make the die roll, or they cast the spell and the opponent fails their saving throw or something like that, and they get out of there. They pull off the win when they maybe shouldn't have, or it shouldn't have been that easy. To me, I love that. I think it's great. I think it can be really funny, and it's those moments at the table that your players will talk about. I know it can feel frustrating for some game masters, where it can feel like the party or the players circumvent your challenge, where you have this big bad evil guy set up and they beat him quickly. I would say don't be discouraged by that. Be more excited that they pulled something off great. For me, that's kind of how I look at it. It does change a little bit in a sandbox style game, which is what I play mostly. You don't really have big bad evil guys. There are villains. There are people that are bad, and the party would probably want to stop them. But there are always more villains, or it's the villains are who the party makes them. So there's no one I'm really trying to protect. So if they're able to get the drop on a villain and kill him quick or easy, or execute some sort of heist or something like that, all the more power to them. And those are the memorable moments that we talk about at the table. So to me, those are the best ones. The worst ones are usually around combat, and more so with 5th edition. When I game mastered 5th edition, I found combat could really drag. It could become this total slog. And some of that was my fault in prepping the combat encounters. Probably having too many monsters, or monsters with too many complex abilities, can just really slow down the table for me as I run it. But some of it's also the players. Maybe they're a little bit indecisive. They have their action, their bonus action. Which spell should I cast, or should I move? All those decision points really slow down the game. When I've felt the most like dreading being at the table or running the game, it's usually around kind of a slog of a combat. Is there anyone's work in the current TTRPG space that you admire? Yes, there are. I really like Kevin Crawford's work. He is Sine Nomine Publishing, but it's a one-man shop. It's Kevin Crawford. So that's Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, and a ton more. Ashes Without Number is his newest one. He puts out phenomenal work, tons of great tools for game masters, makes PDFs free, just a total machine. And he runs Kickstarters that actually go off on time, which is very impressive. So I really respect his work. I also really respect Matt Finch's work. So Matt Finch is the principal behind Mythmere Games. So he wrote the Tome of Adventure Design, and he's the principal designer behind Swords and Wizardry, which is a retro clone of original Dungeons and Dragons with a few modifications to it. His interpretations off some of the vague rules of OD&D, but he puts out really great stuff too. I've always been impressed with his work as well. And then thirdly, it would be Gavin Norman of Old School Essentials and Dolmenwood. Gavin is a master of like information layout in TTRPG books. He designs them to be useful at the table running the games, rather than kind of being read like a coffee table book. You can still read them and they're quite fun and enjoyable, but they're really awesome reference manuals and really clear, concise formatting. And the modules that he designs in Dolmenwood, his campaign setting they design, are really flavorful, well designed, a lot of creativity there. So those would be three that I really look up to: Kevin Crawford, Matt Finch, and Gavin Norman. Perkle Awesome asks, what do you do when you find yourself stuck in a creative rut? What is your process for finding new ideas? Great question. I often will do one of two things. I will try to consume some new media. So either read a new book, listen to a new audiobook, watch a new show or a new movie. Doesn't have to be in the genre that you are currently trying to work in. So if you're, fantasy, it doesn't have to be that. You could watch a sci-fi movie or something. Try to look for different things or different threads in there that might be interesting to borrow from. I'm always listening to audiobooks. So that's kind of one thing I do there. And then also you can use different random tables, different kind of spark tables to combine different ideas and just sort of think through, okay, this is sort of unusual. What could this possibly mean? I actually have a whole video on writer's block or creative blocks. I'll put it up here so you can check that out, and that gives a much more in-depth answer than that. But hopefully those things help. Creative ruts happen to us all. They suck when you're in them, but you do what you can to get out of them. So hopefully you're not stuck in one right now, but if you are, maybe that video will help. Art Herb writes, what's your favorite dungeon? I've been really impressed with the Halls of Arden Vul. I've been watching the 3D6 Down the Line group play that. That's a super in-depth dungeon. Richard Barton put that one together. It's just so deep. There's so much information there. It's almost intimidating to run because of how deep it is. And watching them and seeing how that lore and all that world building is tied together within that mega dungeon is very cool. It's very impressive. What's your favorite module? I've really been impressed by Gavin Norman's The Incandescent Grottos. It's a lower level dungeon designed for parties of like 1 to 3 levels for OSR style systems, designed for BX, but you can port it to anyone you'd like. It's probably about 60 or 70 rooms over a couple levels. Very cool, well designed and pretty flavorful. What was your best experience as a player as opposed to a game master? Probably one time we were able to pull off a heist and steal some treasure from a dragon and get away with it. That was a lot of fun, very flavorful. All in all, a good time. Next, we got Bromos Sunstar Ranger 8706. What's your favorite encumbrance rules? I like slot-based encumbrance. What's your favorite house rule? I like to modify the death and dying rules in BX. At 0, you just die. I changed that to be you can go negative to your level. So if you're level 1, you can drop to -1 and then you die. You bleed out 1 hit point per round, and then if you die, you die. What's your favorite type of quest? For quests, I think I like ones where they have to maybe go rescue someone. Maybe there's a NPC that's been taken hostage and they need to try to get them back. That introduces a little bit more interesting dynamics because they can't maybe just barge in, might get the NPC killed. So a little bit more thinking on their part on how they're going to get them out of that. What's your favorite homebrew item? I love me a good magic sword. Could be intelligent, could be not, but just with some interesting or cool powers. Love making magic items. So Nuthier Furlong, hope I'm saying that right, writes a bunch of questions here. Do your games pretty much skew towards the OSR? Yes, that's usually what I've been game mastering the last couple of years and what I've been enjoying. But there are a couple other styles I'd like to try. Or there's some differences from the stereotypical template that you've come to enjoy. Like I said, I've mostly stuck to OSR, but I'd like to try some of the free league games, maybe like the Year Zero engine or the One Ring, which are a little bit different than OSR. They have some similarities, but some differences as well. I think those would be a lot of fun to try. What other styles of running role-playing games work that you've seen despite them not quite aligned with the OSR style of play? I think all of them work. I try to tell people, play what you enjoy, play what you like. I just like to share information on kind of sandbox style of play, open worlds, because that's what I've really become to enjoy. The narrative arc, if you're having fun with that, if there's parties that have fun telling those grand stories, keep playing it. Life's too short to not play something that you're having fun with. There are lots of different ways to play, and I think they can all be fun if you have the group that's really invested in that. How often do languages wind up featuring in your game, and to what extent? Yeah, I like to incorporate languages. I do more regional or cultural type languages in my world rather than like Common, Elvish, Troll. It's more regional based. So you might have different languages that are cross races or cross species, whatever you want to call them. And you might also have places where elves can't speak to one another because they're from different regions. And I also like to include like older languages or ancient languages where, you know, when they delve into dungeons, they'll find these and they either need to, you know how to read that or find, you know, a translation book or use the spell read languages or find a sage. Lots of different ways to incorporate that. And I think that adds a little bit of depth to the world building. So that's how I like to do it. It's a little bit more of a hassle. You just have to have the languages, you know, ahead of time for session 0 so your players can select off them. But I think it's worth it. Civil Beard asks, what's your favorite faction you've ever run? I ran a cult once that was sort of these remnants of these noble houses that were these really powerful magic users, and they fell out of grace and they were sort of trying to uncover their lost and forgotten secrets of their, you know, their ancestors. And they're trying to evade the predominant religion that was in the area that obviously didn't want them to regain their power. And they were just a very interesting faction because they have sort of this dual-sided where they are useful, they can help the party, they can oppose the party in certain situations. What they're trying to uncover is obviously dangerous, but in the world there was sort of some need for it. They kind of had this balancing aspect, and the predominant powerhouse religion in the area was becoming corrupt. So it was sort of like, should we put these old guys back in power? Just a lot of interesting kind of interfaction play with those clandestine cult type arcane users. I had a lot of fun running them. What's your day job? I am a data scientist. Okay, our next question comes to us from Anathema 1828. Have your sandbox campaigns included travel to other planes of existence? Do you have any tips for running planar travel and letting your players loose on reality independent of their own? Yeah, so in my sandboxes, I do like to include travel to other planes. I generally focus on demi-planes or kind of like pocket dimensions. That way it's additional unique content, but it's not huge and you don't have to plan tons and tons of stuff. Generally, I like to have maybe like, I don't know, a demigod or an archfey or elemental lord or demon prince or whatever. They have their own kind of small area, and the players can go into that area and they can interact with that faction, that being, and have their adventures there, and then, you know, come back to their standard material plane. Tips I would have for running planar travel would be around thinking about how the laws, the physical laws of that plane are different from Earth, right? Usually we have our scientific Earth-like laws that we apply to our material planes. You have Earth-like gravity and a standard atmosphere, standard Earth-like temperatures, things like that. So how do those change in the plane? And then how do those affect your location and adventure design? So if it's a plane where the party can fly freely, well, how do you incorporate that flight into the location and the adventure design? Well, maybe you have floating Earthmotes or areas that they can fly to and utilize the flight to their advantage, things like that to make it sort of a unique and fun experience. And then lastly, I would say, make sure that those laws that you're implementing for those planes are absolute. They are learnable by the party and they always apply. So don't make it variable where, oh, this rule only works in this one part of the plane. I would have it so that it's consistent across that plane. So they're not getting frustrated and like, why is this weird rule work here, but not there? That makes it a little bit more understandable for the party because they're new to this kind of alien plane as well. So, you know, you have the advantage of understanding how it works. They don't. So make it so that they can learn it and then make it so that it's consistent. So that's going to do it for the Q&A. So thank you for all the questions. And thank you for all of the support over the past year, the comments and the likes and all the subscribers. Really means a lot. It does motivate me to continue to make videos. I look forward to making a lot more in the future. Like the video if you haven't already. Consider checking out Enchanted Nimbus if you're not already subscribed to that and you want more Earthmote content. That's my monthly newsletter. Thanks for hopping aboard the Earthmote. I'll see you in the next one.